welcome here to HuskerOnline Postgame Live. Sean Callahan, Robin Washett, Steven Sipple here as Nebraska gets a 35-21 win over Indiana. Gentlemen, their first Big Ten win in 364 days since that epic light show night on October 2nd. And by the way, we got a light show here tonight. They kind of tinkered with the light show, but it was still a great showing, sold-out crowd, and it was sold out. It was a great atmosphere, great win for Nebraska. Mickey Joseph, Bill Bush. We got a lot to talk about, guys, a lot to dive into this matchup. Going through the numbers, Nebraska finished with 385 total yards, but most importantly, they held Indiana to under 300 at 290 in Bill Bush's debut. There were over, 200 yards of penalties in this ball game on 23 total flags. That's a big topic of discussion we're going to get into. But Nebraska found a way to weather really a second, third quarter storm in this game. Nebraska had just 113 total yards of offense on 35 plays over the second and third quarters combined. It was a brutal stretch of football, and they weathered that storm, and they finally, guys, broke out of it with a 71-yard touchdown pass from Casey Thompson to Trey Palmer, and that was really what changed things. But it was a tough stretch there until that moment.
Yeah, go ahead, Robin. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say that's exactly the storyline for me. Is it wasn't pretty. There was a lot of choppy, ugly play at times. Bad penalties, whether they were warranted or not, turnovers, bad sacks, poor offensive line play. If you just go down the list, it was not a thing of beauty whatsoever. But here's the difference: for the first time in a long time, Nebraska found a way to get it done when it mattered the most. When the game was on the line, they made the plays. They won the game, and they put the victory away. And that's as telling as anything, because
first time,
back to last year. It's been 364 days since they've won a Big Ten football game, and that they were able to get in the victory formation on offense and eagle out the game. And so that, just to take that step, is a huge deal, and something that, in order to take any progress as a program, you have to win a game like this, as ugly as it may have been.
And the defense, I think, maybe I'd say Casey Thompson and the defense played gigantic roles. The defense, the defense forced 8 or 9 3-and-outs, one of the two. I think it was 8 3-and-outs.
It was 7 3-and-outs, then a fourth down stop. So really 8. If one was a fourth down, they went for it.
And Indiana was what on third down? 2 for 14, 2 for 15. Indiana 2 for 15 on third down. Now, what do we talk about so often this year? Nebraska couldn't get off the field on third down. Well, now we have to acknowledge that Indiana was without its best offensive player, Cam Camper. Top two receivers. Thank you.
Number
Rob.
6 and number 7.
Yeah.
Both were out.
Yeah. Williams was a Florida State transfer. Cam Camper was targeted 63 times in the first 4 games. He wasn't available tonight. So, but I don't want to, some people are going to diminish this win. I'm not going to put Nebraska, I'm not going to thrust them into the conversation for the Big Ten West quite yet. They're tied for first.
Nobody is undefeated in the West right now.
Right.
Nobody.
Again, I'm not going to do that, but but they got to win, and boy, they needed it.
Took a step towards being in that.
Yeah, and if you lose this game, boy,
the alternative is bad.
This would have been a bad loss.
And they did, as disjointed and kind of ugly as it was, it was pretty smooth late. That pass from Thompson to Palmer was beautiful. It was a gorgeous pass.
And then
the ensuing drive after that. So they went.
March down.
I think they went 6 plays, 54 yards, or maybe 12 plays. 12 plays, 54 yards. Anthony Grant was big on that.
Little
drive.
trivia question for you: 32 carries for Anthony Grant, the most carries since
Don't do
when?
This. Don't do this to me.
In the game notes.
No.
That was not in the game notes.
Okay, 32 carries.
Amir Abdullah had 35 in that epic Miami win.
Oh.
Now they didn't go back. They only gave us
In 2014.
Yeah, 2000. They only gave us in the game notes the 31 carries by Trey Bryant, but the highest. This is the most since that Amir Abdullah epic performance against Miami where he went for over 220 against the Hurricanes.
That was in 2014.
That was an electric. I mean, that was an electric game. There was nothing fancy about Anthony Grant tonight. It was just a chip away, blue collar, a lot of 2 to 6 yard runs. Nebraska only had one run longer than 15 yards in this game, 17-yard run. No runs over 20. So it was not fancy, but it was what they needed. They needed a kind of a steady diet, and they rode number 10 hard.
Yeah. And I mean, that's what he's been doing. I mean, he's obviously provided the home runs early in the season, but in a game like that where, you just got to stay on the field and you got to have the time of possession and win a game like that when things aren't necessarily going perfect for you. I mean, that's what they needed out of Anthony Grant. He was that bell cow. And Sean, you called it going into that game. Your was it 3-2-1?
25 carries. I called.
You said he was going to get at least 25 carries.
Oh, nice, Sean.
I think that was a pretty I mean,
you went out on a limb a little bit
because we didn't see Mark Whipple backs get over 22-ish. That was kind of like the Mendoza line for. I mean, you just didn't see it. There's some interesting moments I want to talk about with Whipple tonight, though. The moment, I mean, the game changed at this moment when Casey Thompson held the ball on the 3rd and 2 for too long, took the sack.
First quarter.
And Kevin Suits, our good friend at 10-11, had some great footage of that exchange on the sideline with Casey Thompson and Mark Whipple. And it was an exchange.
No, it wasn't an exchange. It was all Whipple. I mean, Thompson didn't go back at him. No, there wasn't. No, I mean, Sean, I want to be clear on this. It was not an exchange. It was one way. It was one way. Whipple lit into him. Yeah, Casey handled it like a pro. Whipple got after him, probably for holding the ball, missing a receiver on the backside who was open on the 3rd and 2. Casey held it, got sacked. Whipple got into him. Casey took it. I mean, he didn't lash back at all. I don't think he said a word. He just nodded his head.
And Chubba Purdy comes in, and now Mickey Joseph kind of tried to protect that situation in the post game. He said, when I played for Coach Osborne, sometimes we would put a quarterback in for one series just to let the starter catch their breath. And
let him see the defense from the sideline.
But it changed the game. I mean, the first 2 plays were a negative run, then a 2-yard run, and then Chubba Purdy, as we know, took the sack in the end zone, which should have been a safety, but he fumbled. And then it became a touchdown, tied the game at 7. And that's when we kind of hit that second, third quarter pillow fight stage of this game where nobody really wanted to kind of break free. Because Indiana didn't have much firepower. They did not have a Trey Palmer tonight to break this game open. And, they were hoping Nebraska would make a mistake. I mean, Nebraska was able to withstand that and win. But that little exchange followed by Chubba coming in. And then Casey Thompson left the game again with an injury for a few
late in the 3rd quarter. I think
shoulder injury.
Yeah, late in the 3rd quarter, he got smacked in the pocket by number 0, and he was down. He was down on the turf. Got back, but told Mickey, "I'm not going out of the game." They put Chubb in for one play. Yeah, Chubba ran an option. Yeah, left for 0 yards, and Casey went back in the game. And not long after that is when he threw that pass to. When he threw that pass to Palmer, which gave Nebraska a touchdown lead, gave him some separation. It was critical. I mean, it was a critical throw. It was a beautiful throw. That's what Casey's all about. Now, here's a beautiful thing about Casey. He's tough and he's a veteran. He can withstand. God, I mean, I'll tell you what. You guys know it. In this league, how many times? How think about how often we've watched quarterbacks just get hammered. Be in difficult situations. It's tough. I mean, it's tough for Nebraska.
Yeah, and that 4th quarter, coming off that big hit where he did have to miss a play, comes back in the 4th quarter, is 4 of 6 for 140 yards and 2 total touchdowns. 71-yard bomb that changed the game, and then finished it off with that 1-yard touchdown run.
Yeah,
at the goal line.
Yeah, did Anthony Grant smack a guy?
Yeah, huge. If you go back and watch that play, he's like the lead blocker. It was a pretty sweet play design too, and he just blows up a dude right at the line of scrimmage.
I think they ran that play in Ireland. Yeah. I think they ran that play in Ireland. I think Casey went in. I think he went to his left in Ireland. He went to his right here, but Anthony Grant evidently can block pretty well.
He's a tough dude.
There's a lot he can do.
He's a tough dude.
I mean, of all the guys they brought in, where would they be without Anthony Grant?
Casey Thompson, too.
Casey Thompson, Trey Palmer, Anthony Grant.
Yeah. All on offense.
Yeah, that's one of the things I touched on is, when it mattered the most, Nebraska's best players on offense came up big, where they were kind of plodding along there and nothing was really clicking, like you mentioned, especially in the second and third quarters. But when the game was on the line, Casey stepped up, make big plays. Trey Palmer stepped up, make plays. Anthony Grant stepped up, make big plays when somebody had to rise to the occasion, and the best guys on Nebraska's offense did that in each their own way.
Yeah, those are transfers. Think about that. Talking about a bunch of
And
transfers.
I look at Grant as a transfer. I know he played JUCO.
Well, he's a JUCO transfer.
But he played at Florida State and went to a JUCO. I mean, he's not a traditional D1 transfer right now, but yeah.
JUCO transfer.
They'd be even tonight. I mean, Hunter Anthony came in too. And
played right tackle.
You talk about the offensive line situation. I mean, you look at, left tackle, Proska out. You start Corcoran. He gets ejected after 2 back-to-back deals. He punched a guy.
Did he punch him?
They called it a punch.
Yeah, they called it a punch. The replay showed it was like open hand, put it on the guy's face. Here's my deal. Like, that's a borderline play. You can make a case one way or the other, but you have to know the refs are watching you. After what happened the play before.
What happened on the play before?
They got the face mask on Casey Thompson, and Turner retaliates to defend his quarterback, which is, whatever.
He tried to pull the guy off.
I can at least accept that. Like, you're sticking up for your quarterback, trying to protect your quarterback. But you also have to be smart enough to know that they're going to be watching you. If you get into a dust up like that with somebody, the refs are going to be watching to make sure there's no further incident. And he reared his arm back and he hit the guy in the head and drove it into the turf. Like,
can't
say what you want to say. When you're being watched, that's going to get called more often than not.
Yeah, and you're the left tackle. I mean, you're a big part of that. You're a big part of the offense. Obviously, you can't put your team in peril, but they came out of it 2-3 now. Nebraska 2-3, 1-1 in the Big Ten. Indiana falls to 3-2 and 1-1. Mm-hmm. So there you go.
So Corcoran comes out though. Brant Banks comes in.
Yeah, how about Brant Banks?
And he did his job. And then Hunter
left
Anthony.
Left tackle.
We almost kind of saw at right tackle a rotation because Benhart continued to come in.
Yeah,
but Benhart struggled, and I think maybe that's what they needed to do. I mean, they needed to kind of just relieve Benhart at times, and get Hunter Anthony ready. I mean, because we've seen plenty of Benhart, and we kind of know what the situation.
And now you're getting into the difference. What you're seeing with Mickey as the head coach, a little different now. I mean, I think they're a little more apt to rotate. I mean, they put Chubb in, they put Hunter Anthony at right tackle, Malcolm Hartzog.
That took some,
Malcolm Hartzog, freshman, gets to start at corner. I mean, they made some changes. Well, I don't know where Hartzog came from.
And you talk about a guy that was not very ballyhooed coming in here. I mean, Malcolm Hart, when you ranked the 33 guys they brought in, he's probably like bottom 5 on the list.
He was a 3-star with a handful of Power 5 offers.
Yeah, he had Southern Miss.
He only had one committable Power
Ole Miss.
Yeah,
Ole Miss.
When you break it down to committable.
It wasn't committable.
You don't think Ole Miss
He's a Mississippi kid.
Okay.
Do you think a Mississippi? I mean, Nebraska was really his only team on him late, and he signed in December and got here in December.
Malcolm Hartzog's who we're talking about.
Mr. Football. He was Mr. Football in Mississippi 2A or 3A. Led his team to a state championship.
Now he's little.
They list him at 5'9". That might be generous.
He's
5'9", 170 is what
I was struck when we went down on the field. When we go down on the field late in the game, we're up in the press box for the game, but we go down there late. When I got to look at him, I was really surprised how small he was.
Led his team to a state championship, averaged over 10 yards a carry as a ball carrier. He's explosive.
He must be good. I mean, think about it. We didn't hear much about him. We haven't heard much about him at all. We don't go to practice. We don't see it. We haven't heard much about him at all. And there he is starting.
Yeah.
He must be tougher than hell.
Well,
I mean, the kid must be tougher than hell.
And he didn't have a lot of momentum behind his name. So, in the politics of playing guys, he didn't have very many politics that gave him a bump. So, this is an example, like you said, of Mickey and Bush saying, we're going to give this guy a chance because, Tommy Hill wasn't getting it done. And it did take some, to bench Tommy Hill for a true freshman.
Yeah.
Well, think about that.
I mean, especially to that opening snap, Hartzog sitting there at 5'9", 170, whatever he is, against how big was that receiver? Like 6'2".
Yeah, big dude.
A big Big Ten level wide receiver. Mm-hmm. And he didn't get burned. I mean, I'm sure he had a pass breakup, no tackles in the final stats, but to have that type of performance in your first game, and then, oh, by the way, return a punt block for a touchdown in your very first collegiate start, What a night for that kid.
And that was the first block punt for a touchdown, Sipple, since 2009 at Baylor. Justin Blatchford. You remember that memorable day in Waco?
No, I don't.
It was Cody Green's
Block that one out.
Cody
really
Green's
don't.
first start.
I do. I remember
Cody
that.
Green.
I remember that. I
And
remember it was
the
a
game
gorgeous
that
day.
They penalized Sue basically for like sacking guys too hard.
Yeah, he threw a guy to the ground.
And he walks by me and you and he goes, I'm not doing any interviews.
Yeah, he's not doing
He
any
was-
interviews. So who returned that?
Justin Blatchford.
Returned to block punt?
Mm-hmm. It was the first special teams touchdown overall since J.D. Spielman in 2019. South
Okay.
Alabama.
South Alabama. Okay. Yeah, it was big. I mean, they needed everything.
Special teams in general. I mean, if you want to transition to that,
Okay.
You know, Buschini had a couple shanks. I think probably about 3 bad shanks, at
Did he
least
have 3 bad shanks?
Yeah, he had a 32-yarder,
His average
a
is only
20-some
39.
yarder, and then like a 38-yarder.
Okay.
You know, so but he also had at least 3 like elite level punts. He put 3 punts inside the 10, one at the 10, one at the 5, and then one all the way down at the 2. In a game where field position was critical. I mean, like I said, he wasn't perfect, but those types of plays were pretty important.
Yeah. They got some returns. They got some punt
They
returns.
did. The 22-yard return by Trey Palmer was the longest punt return Nebraska's had since
2020.
Cam Taylor Britt
at
in
Purdue
2020.
2020.
2020. Wow.
27-yard punt by Cam Taylor Britt. That was so. I mean, there was some
It's been almost 2
special
years since they've had a punt
team
return that long.
kind of milestones that we haven't seen. You know, they were actually returning punts, which
Yeah.
was a positive. How about this though? No field goal attempts in this game,
Yeah,
and
at all.
Nebraska's made just 1 field goal on the year.
I was going to say, it's not like Bleeker. They're not. Yeah. Bleeker hasn't been. He's been basically inactive.
Well, and then they had that long kick where they let Frankie try it. So I mean, Bleak Road hasn't really done. They didn't use him much, but
yeah,
all touchdowns, both sides tonight.
Hey, listen. I mean, here's the deal. You got to give Bush a lot of credit, Bill Bush, because the special teams are basically still his baby. Now, Joey Connors has taken it over. You got to tip your cap to Joey Connors as well. But Joey Connors worked under Bill for the last year and a half, and now Bill's coaching the defense. Still has a hand in special teams.
he's still doing all the on-field coaching for special teams in practice.
I mean, think about
while coordinating the defense.
Think about the impact Bill had on this game.
Absolutely.
Indiana shut out in the second half. I never would have guessed
Under 300 yards.
Yeah, never. Well, yeah, and shut out in the second half. I mean, they didn't score. I mean, there's no way I would have predicted that. No way. I thought they'd score 40 plus.
Think about the way the first half ended. I mean, Indiana's just slicing and dicing them. Like it looked like they were going to, it was going to be the same old script where the other team figures out the defense and they just start lighting them up. And they had those 2 bad drives to end the half. What does Nebraska do? They actually go into the locker room and they make halftime adjustments. And they totally take control over the game. Again, they get to the quarterback, 3 sacks, 6 quarterback hurries, 6 tackles for loss. I mean, just the overall aggressiveness on that side of the ball. Now, it led to some penalties, some ones that got called or negated, whatever. But I think overall, that was something that really jumped out, was just the way they attacked the quarterback with different blitz pressures. And then also with their coverage, they played press man
they played
for the
press
first
man.
time from start to finish. And that led to 8 pass breakups, forced an interception. So I liked the wrinkles that Bill Bush and that defensive staff incorporated this week. And it's probably something that people have been waiting all year for them to actually start doing.
Well, yeah, again, I mean, that's a pretty positive commentary on Bush. I mean, I don't want to get into you don't want to go back to Eric Chenander, but
Now it was Indiana.
Yeah,
without their 2 best wide receivers.
Who Matt
That's
Millen,
fair.
the color analyst before the game, said that their offensive line is one of the worst in the league. And Nebraska they made it look like they should up front.
Yeah.
And they were missing their 2 best receivers. And Nebraska made that look like what it should in that situation. So easier said than done for what we've seen. It was quite the scene on the field after the game with Bill Bush and his family. His mom and dad were down there. Coach, Bill's dad was his high school coach at Pender, and his wife Laura, and just an emotional hug and scene. It was really cool to see.
Oh yeah, I mean, this is Bill's 3rd go around as a Nebraska assistant, but he's never been the defensive coordinator. So this is important to him.
And Priscilla Joseph too, for her down. She was down there. I mean, it was,
yeah.
Just their presence was cool because we didn't see that obviously with Frost when they want to get just the presence of family and
saw a little bit,
but not like tonight. I mean, it was, I never seen, just that kind of emotion in the locker room scene. And Trey, I don't know if you can find this tweet, but let's pull this up if you can. The Huskers tweeted out the locker room scene in the post game of Mickey Joseph in the team celebrating the win. And it was just an incredible scene in the locker room with Mickey Joseph and the team in the locker room.
Well, that's beautiful. I mean, it's beautiful because think about what these players and staff have gone through. It's hell. And to get to actually celebrate in that stadium. And I don't want to do this thing where we pander to the masses and talk about the fans too much. But I mean, my God, the stadium was full again.
It was unbelievable.
I mean, people can deride that sellout streak all
and
they
here's
want.
the scene right here.
And you get a lot of that. But the seats are full. I mean, and it's helpful. It really helped. It didn't help them against Georgia Southern, and it didn't help them against Oklahoma. But it was a factor. It's always a factor.
I liked what Mickey said after the game too. He's asked a couple different times about what this meant for him, getting his first win as a interim head coach, and just like what kind of tried to personalize it with him. And he was like, yeah, I know it felt great, but this is all about the team. It's all about these coaches and what they've had to overcome and deal with over the last few weeks with all the turnover and drama and all that stuff that's been surrounding the program. For them to be able to put their heads down and just gut out a win like this, I think speaks a lot to this group. And I think this is the type of team that we thought we'd see from the get-go. At least personally, I did, where you're going to have strong, aggressive defense, some dynamic plays offensively. You're going to have special teams that aren't a liability. They're more of an asset. Yeah. All those things, and granted, you got to take the opponent in for what it is, but still, considering what this team has gone through over the first month of the season, I really tip my hat to them for pulling together.
What are you smiling about over there?
Tom Sandquist said, Dean, can you talk about how much smoother those silver bullets are going down after the win?
Dean, can you talk about that?
They taste different.
Dean, yeah. So Dean is my internet name only because somebody accidentally, the S and the D are by each other on a keyboard. Mm-hmm. And so somebody said Dean once, and boom, it's my internet name.
Dean. Then it became a whole political campaign where he's going to run.
I ran for governor once.
You are the dean.
You are the dean.
Well, yeah, how is it going down?
By the way, did you see it was Trev Alberts was in the locker room scene?
Well, that's what I saw, yeah.
And I didn't realize he kind of presented the game ball like I mean, that was an interesting deal. I don't know
why do you say that?
Well, I just have never seen an athletic director down there like that in that setting, but we're in a setting that we've never seen at Nebraska before either, where
two coaches fired in September.
Yeah. It's kind of unprecedented.
I think we might have a quiet Sunday tomorrow.
All right.
No firing.
I don't think anybody's
Is anybody getting fired tomorrow?
I'm going to watch some football tomorrow.
Yeah, I think you might be.
Cole has hit us in the super chat, has a couple comments. Wanted to say who is worse, Indiana or Northwestern? And he goes, they were actually getting lined up on time, by the way. That was great to see. Thank you, Cole, by the way, for your support. But who is worse, Indiana or Northwestern?
Ooh, that's a good question.
I think tonight with Indiana not having Northwestern had better running backs and a better offensive line.
Yeah.
And arguably a better quarterback.
Yeah.
But Indiana had a better defense. That's my take.
Oh, God. They weren't very good up front, though, on defense. No. They weren't very good up front.
They were bringing heat, though.
They have some guys. They have some linebackers and DBs that aren't too bad. They're not very – they didn't get – no, they're not very good up front on either side. Good question. That's a really good question. I'd lean toward Indiana being a little bit better than Northwestern.
Yeah, I mean, just look at the overall body of work too. Indiana had some pretty significant injuries, and they beat Illinois. Illinois turns out they're not too bad.
Right. So Illinois' only loss.
Yeah,
4-1. Illinois is 4-1.
Yes,
and they go into Madison today.
That was
Brett Bielema just.
What, Sean?
I mean, he just poured himself an old fashioned in Madison today and just walked in there and took over the stadium.
Yeah,
I was trying to come up with a good
cheese
one.
Curds. He was good.
That was pretty good. You're usually the king of analogies.
And I'll tell you, Barry Alvarez had to not like that because that ended pretty bad with him and Bielema there.
Oh, did it?
Bielema came out afterwards and said, he admitted, this was big for me. Like he understood the significance of that.
I mean, they stopped talking, obviously, when he left to go to Arkansas.
34-10 is what we're talking about. Illinois going into Camp Randall and winning 34-10 and holding Wisconsin to 2 yards rushing. Okay.
Allen only had 2 yards total on 8 carries.
Maybe they had a little more than 2. Maybe, but it
Braylon
was single
Allen had
digits.
8 carries for 2 yards.
Okay, it was single digits what Wisconsin had on the ground. Now think about that. On their home field,
their leading rusher at like 16 yards.
Yeah, on their home field, Illinois holds them to single digits rushing. Illinois 4-1.
Indiana beat that team.
Yeah,
so
yeah, there you go.
That's to your point.
Yeah.
And you look at what's happened to Northwestern since Ireland, I'd say Indiana's slightly better.
And we saw Purdue go into Minneapolis. And, they did.
And do what?
Well, they jumped on them first.
Right.
And
they
you always
won.
heard Scott Frost say this. He's like, you got to get ahead on Minnesota early to get them out of their game. Because they try to kind of slow it down.
Mm-hmm.
And if you get Tanner Morgan behind, he's not as good. But if Tanner Morgan's in control, he's really good. Right?
No Ibrahim in that game. I don't know the final. Purdue won.
Ibrahim hurt his ankle, right?
Well, that's what they're saying. I'm getting mixed reports, but Ibrahim didn't play. That's the bottom line. At all. And Purdue won. I don't know what the final was, but it was close.
And Aiden O'Connell
20-10 Purdue.
Aiden O'Connell was a game time decision and played pretty well. Serviceable.
So yeah, we might as well Huskerize this a little bit.
Yeah.
The West is wide open. I mean, Iowa lost to Michigan. Wisconsin's down. Iowa's down. Wisconsin's down.
This is a big game against Rutgers in that sense, because Nebraska, if they were to win, that's another East win for Nebraska.
Yeah.
They're 2-0 in the East.
Yeah, yeah. If Nebraska were to go on the road and beat Rutgers, then I'd start talking about Nebraska more seriously as a West contender. I'm not doing it yet. I'd have to see more.
I think they'll be slight, maybe 2-3 point dogs at Rutgers. That's my Saturday night, 1 Coors Light deep.
Yeah.
Well, and that's a Rutgers team that just got shellacked 49-10 by Ohio State, coming off a short week, and they've got quarterback injuries.
In Iowa the week before.
Vedral played, but he was dinged up going into that game. So, they've got some issues that they need to address in a short amount of time. Whereas Nebraska's got Mo on their side again, and maybe that's the spark that can get things.
And I talked to Noah Vedral's uncle Matt Turman pregame today. He was down here today, and he said Noah's really hoping to get back for this game. Like, I mean, he played a little bit today, as Robin said, and I think obviously playing against Nebraska as a 6-year senior means quite a bit to Noah Vedral. I mean, you think about it, he was on the 2017 Central Florida team, so he's been around a lot of college football. And this game against Nebraska on a Friday night for him, I think we'll see him out there
Friday night.
Yeah, Vedral played. He had 4 carries for 10 yards. Did not throw a pass. Evan Simon was their primary quarterback, and he was 10 of 19 for 74 yards.
Young guy
against Ohio State.
Yeah, he's a young guy. I have not looked at Rutgers very closely. I'm not going to make any predictions, and I'm not drinking Coors Light tonight like Sean. We'll have to see. I'll look at them tomorrow.
Let's go through some of the comments. We got a lot of people that have made comments, and thank you for everybody joining tonight on the show. Let's see. We've got how about the energy on the sidelines? That's from Dylan here on the comments. Wanted to know, what did you guys think of just the energy, the way the team responded to Mickey Joseph, especially in some adverse situations?
Oh, I think the energy is good. Again, I think the home crowd helps that. But I think Mickey, now, I mean, we've been sort of saying this, but okay, if you think about it, the personalities of the top 2 guys in charge are much different than the previous guys. I'm not saying that means that they're better, but they're much different. I mean, they're much more upbeat. They're much more apt to crack a joke and get people to laugh at it. Both of them are pretty funny, but they're both hot competitors. They're both hotly competitive. And I admire what Bill and Mickey are doing right now. I mean, they really have gone in guns blazing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's Bill's. It's a great story with Bill. I mean, he absolutely loves this place. I mean, this is his
Nebraska.
Third tour of duties from Pender, Nebraska. This was a guy that when he was a GA, it's a funny story. It's an amazing story what he did. He just basically made himself into a GA. He bought pants on his own, like red pants. He bought the shirt. They didn't give him the clothes. He just showed up at games with the clothes on. Yeah, I mean, he just kind
called
of
Tom Osborne.
Yeah, he kind of willed his way into all this.
When he was at UNK, he called Tom Osborne and just wanted to talk to Coach Osborne for a job. And Osborne called him back. And Osborne was like that. He'd call people back. And they called him like on the dorm phone and said, "Hey, Bill, there's a guy on the phone, Tom Osborne." And that's how he kind of got linked with Nebraska.
So it's a great story. And Mickey's Mickey. I mean, he's a very dynamic personality. I've liked the way he's handled this, though. He's pretty matter of fact about everything. He doesn't overdo it. He doesn't make him about himself, like Rob was saying.
Not at all.
And I like that. I mean, Trev has said this program, nobody's as big as this program, and Mickey Joseph's not.
And I think those guys intentionally try to bring out that swagger out of their players too. Like you almost see them, when they first game, Mickey's coming out of the tunnel, doing his arms up, things like that. I think they're trying to set a tone of trying to get some confidence.
Back
in these guys.
That's it. I mean, the one thing I heard right away when Mickey took over was behind the scenes in front of the media, he's going to pump the team with confidence because it needed it.
Yes.
And they actually looked pretty confident tonight. I thought they hung in there really well.
Yeah.
So yeah, the energy's good. I'd say the energy was really good. They need that. But man, think about this too, how big that off week was. I mean, they looked like they tuned up some things. And I don't know if he could have done that in a week.
No, he couldn't have.
Dylan has an interesting take and question. And, we covered the Dabo Sweeney, Bo Pelini interim season when they played in the Gator Bowl in Jacksonville in 2008. But can Mickey be Nebraska's Dabo? I'm
not going there.
The thing about Dabo is it took several years for him to become Dabo. Mm-hmm. It wasn't like in 2008 he was Dabo. It took 5 or 6 years of maturation before he truly became Dabo. And then he had a couple guys named Deshaun Watson and Trevor Lawrence that kind of brought him over. And he hired Brent Venables from Oklahoma to join him at Clemson. And that kind of changed the image of their defense. Yeah. So there were a lot of steps for Dabo to become Dabo. But, I mean, Mickey got a nice win. I mean, let's start with that.
Yeah.
And he's got a great opportunity again against Rutgers.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah. And I mean, that's kind of what it is right now. He's 1-1 as an interim coach. One was a really ugly blowout loss against an Oklahoma team who, by the way, did not look very good today. And then he got a win against an Indiana team that is clearly struggling in their own right. So we'll see if now that they actually have these good vibes, they have some confidence, they actually won a game, they won a Big Ten game and all these good feelings. Can they carry that over on the road on a short week against a Rutgers team that is primed for the taking? If he can do that, then maybe all of a sudden more and more instances like that makes that conversation become a little bit more of a reality.
Well, Mickey said this is an 8-game interview.
Yeah.
I mean, it's an 8-game interview.
We got another comment from my friend Kenny Burson, actually, a guy that I went to high school with. Kenny, what's up, man? He's a dentist in Denver, doing great. But Kenny wants to know how many games will it take for him to really, or would he have to win to be a contender for this job?
Bowl game, 6.
Yeah.
6.
I think you got to get to that next bye week. If they were to beat Rutgers, and no matter what at Purdue, if it's a close loss, even then all of a sudden that bye week conversation gets pretty interesting.
Yeah. I think he'll have to get to 6 at the minimum.
Oh yeah. I
don't, and I think it'd still be
with an Iowa win probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
an Iowa win does a lot.
Yeah. It's who you beat too. I think goes a long way. If you can start winning some of those games in the West, beating Rutgers and Indiana carry a little bit less weight than beating Wisconsin, Iowa, which hasn't happened here in far too long.
Guys,
so
Iowa and Wisconsin have never been more vulnerable than they are right now.
So I'm saying if you go win those games, those are going to carry a lot more value.
Think about it
in the eyes of the fan base, in the eyes of your boss.
Think about
all that stuff. So optics, I think, are going to play a lot into it. It's not just final record. I think it's, are they going to continue to play hard and fight and be competitive in these games? And can they win some of them?
I'll tell you
what's win enough to go to a bowl.
I'll tell you what's more important than optics is emotion and momentum. And if Mickey would beat those teams, you know how much their emotion he would have behind him from the fan base. No doubt. I mean, that's what college football is.
Imagine they beat Iowa to go to a bowl game.
Oh, imagine the emotion.
And then you're in a situation for Trev.
Yeah, Trev.
15,000 Nebraska fans in Iowa City going, Mickey,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Mickey.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that's what it would be like.
It's not
Hey, I
far
saw
off.
the We Want Bo deal in
Oh, yeah.
03.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Also, Jamal Lord got on the mic in the postgame Alamo
Yeah.
Bowl said that we got a party in 303, and even Steve Sipple, you
Yeah,
invited to the
yeah.
party.
And all these balloons are flying around. I was like, what the hell is going on?
Like he said in the full like microphone ceremony
Yeah.
in the We Want Bo chant, somehow Steve Sipple
Yeah.
got invited to the post party. I don't think he went though.
No, I didn't go, Sean. You're right. Safe to
should
say I
have. You
didn't
should
go.
have.
But yeah, I'm telling you, the emotion will get hot. I don't think we need to go there right now.
Yeah, again, it's one win.
Yeah.
Now let's see what they can do against
They
Rutgers.
win at Rutgers. The dialogue continues. Though.
Oh, absolutely it does.
Whether it
Big
should
Ten
or
wins.
not, I'm not. I think we got to be careful with this a little bit.
2 straight Big Ten wins.
Right.
That hasn't happened in a long
By the way,
time.
Nebraska has won 3 in a row as a team since 2016.
Yep. So
At
yeah.
any point, Scott Frost never won 3 games in a row. So if they were to win at Rutgers, and all of a sudden that Purdue game becomes somewhat of a milestone because this group of players has never won 3 games in a row.
Mhm.
Which
Purdue
is
will be tough. Purdue will be tough.
Purdue will be really tough
They're
on
tough.
the road.
They're different. They're a different Purdue team than you think of because they're good defensively. They're going into the season
They showed
like
it today.
Tom Dienhart,
They showed it today.
our friend at Rivals. Tom Dienhart, Rivals, right? Tom Dienhart,
For now.
and he talked about their defense more than anything. I mean, if you read the preseason magazines, it was more about Purdue defense, which is different. I mean, I have an offensive-minded head coach.
They don't have Bob Diaco running that thing anymore.
And
No,
think
they're good
about
defensively.
the
They're good defensively.
2020 when we went out there for that game. Purdue was kind of a disaster.
Yes, they were.
They tapped out they COVIDed out after that Nebraska loss. They didn't play again the rest of the year.
Is that right? Yeah,
weren't they like
mess.
holding meetings to like get Diaco fired and stuff like that?
Oh, yeah,
Like,
it was
players were coming to the administration like demanding a change. Like it was
a disaster. They had a bunch of players like opt out. And so Jeff Brom has weathered a storm there to kind of get that. They won 9 games last year.
And this is what this is about, by the way, here at Nebraska right now, is weathering this storm. And tonight was big that way.
absolutely.
Tonight was big.
Second,
that way.
third quarter. That was crazy when you think about those stats.
Right. It's like they're on a ship and the weather's bad, but they got to break into weather. Now they can it's like they got dry and have a good meal. And now they feel good about things. Another storm's coming probably.
And that was, give Mark Whipple credit. That was a great 3rd down call. That deep
Which call?
shot to Trey Palmer.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Was that 3rd down?
Yeah, it was 3rd down.
Was it 3rd down?
It was
I
3rd
forgot
down
about
and
that.
long. I don't know if a lot of people
Was
would.
it?
Yes, it was 3rd down. I'm almost positive. I'll pull it up here and look if you want me to look.
Either way, to
Third-
dial up the shot, and you got to wonder, like when Casey held the ball too long, like was that a similar type of play? Is that why Whipple was so fired up about that? Not that he took the shot,
Palmer
or
had a
that
step
he took
on
the
someone.
sack,
Yeah.
but that he missed a potential big play, possibly touchdown. I think they had some things they saw.
Yeah.
Going into
Palmer
that
was
game,
open on the backside.
Yeah,
3rd and 9
Yeah.
on the 29.
Thank you.
3rd and 9.
So no huddle, 3rd and 9. Casey Thompson, deep ball. Trey Palmer, 71 yards.
Man, it was a beautiful
It
throw.
was.
God, it was a beautiful, because you see it every day on Saturdays, college quarterbacks overthrowing that ball. He put it right in there.
So if they don't get that 3rd and 9, it's still a 21-21
Right.
game, and
Yeah.
you're punting from the 29.
Yep.
And Indiana's getting it at about the 35-40.
Felt pretty good about Nebraska's defense though late. Indiana
Yeah,
wasn't
Indiana
getting
couldn't
much
do
on.
anything.
Indiana wasn't getting much on.
Not at all. And how about Trey Palmer? We've talked about him a little.
9
bit.
targets.
Yeah, and
8 catches.
140 yards, TD. I saw an interesting tweet.
157.
Jeez. Blake Lawrence tweeted, and so he former player, like he's got some weight here. He said that Nebraska hasn't had a receiver with the level of talent of Trey Palmer in a decade.
Well, who are we talking about?
Stanley Morgan.
All right, he said this decade. So was he talking about the 2020s only?
I think he just said in a decade, right?
Well, okay. Are you taking him over Wan'Dale Robinson, who led the SEC in receiving yards? I don't know if I am quite
I don't know
doing
if I
that
go
yet.
that far. I don't know if I go that far.
I didn't want to. I saw that tweet, and Wan'Dale Robinson was a 2nd round pick, guys.
Yeah, and who else?
He'd be starting for the New York Giants if he was healthy.
I don't know if Trey's very good. I don't think he's a
well, I mean,
second-round
is he better than Stanley?
Stanley's still in the league.
Stanley's an all-time leading receiver.
I mean, that was. We love you, Blake, but that was an aggressive.
Hey, hold on now. Isn't Stanley Morgan the all-time leading receiver at Nebraska? As far as I know, he is. I'd be careful with all that. Stanley's a good player.
So I'm going through his mentions. People are questioning that as well. His official tweet was, Trey Palmer is the best talent Nebraska has had at wide receiver in a decade. So much fun to watch. He says he doesn't count Kenny Bell because Kenny arrived in 2010.
Okay.
So technically outside of the past 10 years.
I'm sorry, Wandell,
window.
to me, based on...
I mean, if
meeting
they
the-
What
actually-
about Stanley? You leaving Stanley out of this?
Well, Wandell was second-round pick.
Stanley just played in the Super Bowl last year.
Stanley wasn't even drafted.
That's true. That's true.
So that's
Now,
why
He should have been.
Yeah.
My opinion.
Stanley wasn't drafted. You're right, and that's a part of this discussion.
But maybe
for sure.
more of his comment was just about that game-breaking ability.
Yeah.
Like Stanley had a little bit of that.
Oh, he did. Stanley had game-breaking ability.
Yeah.
Great after the catch.
Where does it compare to Trey, you think?
It's Trey's better that way. Trey's got more speed, I think, than Stanley overall. But I mean, is Palmer a surefire draft pick?
I wouldn't say that.
Not right now.
Remember in 2018, though, when they beat Minnesota, like they threw like that deep slant over the middle to Trey Palmer, not Trey Palmer, but Stanley Morgan. And, that was a play like today where he beat PJ Fleck with kind of a play like that, a similar type of moment.
Morgan and Palmer, it's an interesting discussion to me because they're quite a bit different.
Yeah.
Palmer is much more sleek. Stanley was a tough receiver. Great run after the catch guy. Great stiff arm. Remember Stanley's stiff arm? Had a great stiff arm. He was a bit tougher after the catch, I think.
And a great blocker.
Yeah.
Maybe one of the better blockers we had seen at Nebraska.
Yeah.
Now, guys, we talked about the defensive performance in the second half. I want to go by just the quarter numbers here.
Okay.
So in the third quarter, Indiana had just 66 total yards on 16 plays.
Say that again, please.
66 yards on 16 plays.
When was this?
Third quarter.
Third quarter. Okay.
Fourth quarter only, Indiana had just 5 total yards on 12 plays. So 28 second half plays for 71 yards.
28 second half plays, 71 yards. Tip your cap to the defense. Shutout. Second half shutout.
That was an unbelievable performance when you break it down like that, considering what we've seen this year.
And again, that's what makes the second half adjustment that much more impressive to me. The way that first half ended, again, I think a lot of people are having here we go again moments where it was like, all right, they figured them out. They know how to attack. Like they're not going to be able to recover. This is going to be Oklahoma all over again. Get ready for the blowout. They came out in the third quarter and changed the game. I mean, they dictated what Indiana was going to do and just absolutely shut them down in every aspect as the game went on.
Garrett Nelson had a couple sacks.
Yep, career high 2 sacks.
That's big. That's big for Garrett.
But it was the pressures too for me. I mean, obviously they had the 6 hurries, but I think there was more than that too, where they were impacting passes. That
they did.
I mean, routes that were open weren't being delivered comfortably. And compare that to the past 4 games, just how easy it's been.
Was Bush's
quarterbacks.
blitz package a little more aggressive?
It seemed.
I don't know. I'd have to look at the tape.
They were more effective.
Well, that was the best we've seen Ty Robinson look in a while.
Ty Robinson got a sack late.
In a TFL,
TFL.
5-yard loss TFL.
On a running back run. Yep.
But the other key stat of the second half, Indiana on 3rd, 4th down was a combined 1 of 9.
3rd and 4th down, 1 of 9. That's incredible. Now think about that in the
context of what we've watched this year.
Right. Couldn't get off the field. Couldn't get off the field against Georgia Southern. That's coaching. I think you got to tip your cap to those guys. Not that it's all coaching. In fact, I don't like that when we do that, when we make it all about coaching. It's about the players.
They were prepared, though.
Yeah.
They were prepared to succeed. And that's what coaching is.
Yeah.
Prepare your players to
They were
succeed.
better prepared.
That was the whole thing going in. It was we're not going to
I think so.
We're not going to revolutionize the defense. We're just going to make it to where guys know what they're doing and can just go play.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you saw a difference in that, where guys just seemed more comfortable. They didn't look like they were guessing. They looked like they were ones dictating what the offense did.
Yeah, for the most part.
Now, Fong Wei Reldman goes, guys, temper the Kool-Aid, please.
Right.
Both of these teams overall are not very good. And I mean, we kind of made a joke. Is this the 13th place game for the Big Ten power rankings, or is it more than that? And that's
and I'm glad he said that. We got to do
that. You're totally right, Fong Wei.
I think we have. Like we're saying, all right, let's hold off and see what they do against Rutgers. Like, it's not like we're saying they're gonna win out. They beat Indiana, and which we talked about is not a great team without some of their best players. But I think you got to look at this in the context of this season in the context of the last 4 years. Games like tonight didn't happen very much. And so you got to appreciate the effort for all the bad that's happened to this program. They finally got some good tonight.
I know. And you know, you as a human being, you feel good for the principals, you know, the people involved.
And Grass, thank you. He's guzzling the Kool-Aid heavily tonight. He's enjoying the win.
Guzzle.
Yeah.
Have fun.
I mean, that's sports are fun. You don't have to overanalyze everything. Like,
Right.
24-hour rule. We're within the 24-hour rule. You can enjoy this until tomorrow morning.
We're guzzling a couple silver bullets up here.
Yeah.
I didn't have time to get one. We rushed into this so much.
Right there.
No, I mean, to get up here and on at midnight, I don't think I was on the 10 o'clock news on Channel 7. I didn't get off the news till like 10:40, and then I ran over here to start right. So to get on at midnight on these night games, it is a chore, but we know it's important. I mean, it's fun to have these conversations with the fans and with you guys, because I do think this is what people want after a game.
Yeah, I listen to you guys pretty closely, so I hope you're not messing up at all. I hope you're getting all your facts right.
For the most part.
You're like, you're going to edit your column after this show.
No, I don't need to edit it. It's perfect.
Perfect. All right. Well, let's, we got a few more comments.
Got another one from Cole.
Oh, Cole put a super chat in. The officiating crew. And thank you, Cole, by the way, for your super chat support of Husker Online.
Thank you.
The officiating crew, same as OU and Michigan last year. Huh? I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I saw somebody tweet about
They
that.
were the Oklahoma crew. I do remember that.
I think they did 2 games last year, right?
In
Was
the
it
Michigan
Michigan? Yeah, Michigan and OU. So, like, they were. They had some questionable calls. Like, I know people were upset about the Quentin Newsom pass interference, where he clearly held the guy, but the ball was like 15 yards over his head, you know, those types of things. And just the amount of times they had to go to review, and just they were very flag happy. But I also think that may have been the byproduct of 2 teams that, you know, don't play the most fundamentally sound football.
Not a lot of discipline.
Yeah, just kind of some undisciplined play.
A lot of holdings.
The fact that there were a lot of flags, I think, had just as much to do with there were just a lot of penalties happening that needed to be called. So, yeah, I mean, you can question some of their rulings, but I thought overall, I think it was more about the play on the field as opposed to what the refs were and weren't seeing.
Well, you got to mention it wasn't slanted one way.
No,
I mean, they both
got.
Yeah, what was it? Nebraska. What was the final? Nebraska had 12 penalties, and Indiana had 11, I believe. Is that right?
Yeah, it was
11 to 12.
Yeah,
Nebraska had 12 for 111 yards. Indiana had 11 for 92.
203 total penalty yards in the ball game.
Yeah, it wasn't pretty.
Kevin Warren was there tonight. Did you know that?
Kevin Warren, the Big Ten commissioner, actually went to and shook Mickey's hand near the locker room after the game.
Cool.
Yeah.
Postgame.
Kevin Warren.
He had a pretty low profile. Like, I didn't notice him. I didn't know he was here.
He took Ronnie Green, the chancellor, posted a selfie with him, or a group picture with him. So that's the only way I knew he was here. Like, they didn't promote it. Is that the first time he's been to a game?
He was. He was here for the spring game, I think.
This year? Well, in spring of 2020, that was the first time he'd been to Lincoln.
No, but he was here for this past spring game.
Didn't know that.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, let's work our way, guys. We're wrapping up here, but let's get through a few more comments. Sipple, a lot of comments about Kansas. They're 5-0, college game day, heading to Lawrence next weekend. You are the resident expert of Kansas in Lance Leipold. What are your thoughts of this 5-0 start in Lawrence?
Well, I mean, he's about a win away or 2 wins away from it just being, I would almost think, a no-brainer. I mean, you just make it.
Job.
Yeah, you just make it. You just
not
be making
just Nebraska.
Right. You just make it almost harder than it is. What he's doing is remarkable. If he gets to 7 wins or 8 wins, he'll be the national coach of the year. I mean, what he's doing at Kansas is ridiculous. I mean, beating that game today, I did not expect him to win. So I was taken aback by that. I did not expect Kansas to beat Iowa State.
They caught some breaks.
They caught some breaks, but
2 missed field goals and a 3-point win.
5-0 is remarkable. Now I don't know if they can get to 6-0 against TCU.
Matt Campbell's cooled down.
College game day is going to be in Lawrence for that game. So
yeah,
all eyes will be on Lance Leipold.
So Campbell has 2 losses this year. Now their next 3 games are Kansas State. This is Iowa State. Their next 3 games are Kansas State, Texas, and Oklahoma. If he can get 2 of those 3, he's probably back in it. But if he loses 2 of those 3, at what point do you just say you can't sell Campbell? You can't
No.
you can't sell him.
No,
I mean, he's 7-6 last year. They've already got 2 losses this year, including one to Leipold. At some point, Trev can't go to a podium and sell him to Nebraska.
Yeah,
I mean, Leipold, I think, moved ahead of Campbell.
Oh, no question.
Well, I think, yeah.
No question.
The head-to-head, I mean, and it shouldn't be this way, but it is.
No, it shouldn't. It shouldn't come down to.
But it kind of does, though.
In a way, it
Like,
does.
It kind of does.
Kind of
Like,
does.
I hate to say it, but it does.
Yeah, and you don't want to go week to week with the discussion, except in a way you do it with Campbell, like I just kind of did. But I'm also counting last year's disappointment. So Lance, I mean, how do you ignore him right now? I mean, what he's done at Kansas is remarkable. That's a turnaround. Now, Bielema is kind of doing the same thing, in a more quiet fashion at Illinois. Illinois wasn't as in
Who's Illinois' one loss to? Indiana, right?
Indiana.
Yeah,
In the opener.
and Illinois wasn't as in dire straits as Kansas was when Bielema took it over. Kansas, remember when they beat Texas last year in Austin? That was Kansas's first Big 12 road win in 13 years. I mean, that program was ridiculous, bad. And now, in 2 years, they're 5-0, top 25. Are they going to be a top 25 team? Probably. Yes. I would think so.
Oh, I think College Game Day. I mean, the momentum they're going to get now, they deserve to be ranked. I mean, they won at Houston, they won at West Virginia. They've beaten a good Duke team, and they beat, obviously.
They're sound. Now, Rob, they did have – me and Rob were watching the game, and I said, the thing about Kansas, they don't make many mistakes. They're so well coached. And boom, they had 2 pretty bad mistakes late in that game.
Critical penpenalties that almost lost them the game, but at least took it to overtime.
Yeah. But generally, when you watch Kansas, I'm always struck. They have a very sound scheme on offense. The receivers run great routes. They have a good bunch of receivers, 2 very good running backs.
They got a high level quarterback.
And the defense, here's the thing. I thought Kansas's defense, it's not very physical. It's not a very physical defense, not a very big defense. But today, they held Iowa State to 11 points.
Yep.
The difference, like Leipold, this is not to me like a lightning in a bottle UCF 2017 run. Leipold has done this everywhere he's gone.
Builds programs
with Division III national championships in Buffalo.
He built that program,
and now what he's done at Kansas. So to me, his track record is more complete than when you go back to 17, because obviously we thought Frost was a can't miss, but as we've learned, that was a special kind of lightning in a bottle run. McKenzie Milton, I mean, they just hit on everything with that year.
And here's the other thing about Leipold. When we have these discussions about the coaches that are nuanced, you kind of rank the coaches, and one thing that we all do a little bit different is I'm always kind of thinking about availability and can you get them? What's realistic? Lance is very realistic.
What about Wisconsin, though?
I still think they would go Leonard if they fire Christ. They would go with Jim Leonard to DC because they want to keep him there. They want to keep him there. I was talking to a Wisconsin guy today about it, and he thinks they would go Wisconsin or go Leonard. Now, of course, Lance is going to get a look on that, but
the Emperor will decide that. There,
you can get Lance is much more realistic than say Aranda. Aranda, I don't know if you can get him. Sean, you have a source who said he rejected overtures from USC and LSU last year. USC and LSU, okay. So why would he say I'm going to Nebraska?
$6 million right now at Baylor.
Very low key guy too. I don't know if he'd embrace how the fishbowl here. I don't know if he'd embrace that. I like Aranda. He'd maybe be my number 1. I just don't know if you can get him.
I had somebody mentioned to me Luke Fickell, and
I love it. I just don't put him on there because you're not going to get him.
I don't think
because you got to figure the overtures he's turned down.
You ain't getting him.
He's holding out for
Ohio State.
He's the highest paid Group of 5 head coach, along with Dana Holgorsen. They both make 5, and they make more than Leipold does right now. Obviously.
Well, see, that's the thing. If you just look at availability, who's more available, Lance Leipold or Luke Fickell?
And Fickell's waiting for Ohio State,
you don't even have
Michigan,
to
Notre Dame. I mean, I think those are the kind of jobs he wants.
Right. I'm not saying that Lance is a deadlock cinch, but I'm saying if he wins a couple more, then what? Come on, what are you doing? He's the biggest story going in the he's one of the biggest stories going in college football right now.
Like he's coach of the year material.
Like I said, if he gets to 8, he's maybe the national coach of the year.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, we're wrapping up here, guys. Let's see if there's a few more comments that we can slide in here. Gundy is awesome. We're big Mike Gundy fans.
Oh, we like Gundy.
We love Gundy on this show.
Yeah.
Wake up, Robin, Tony says. Wake up.
It's getting late. A little past my bedtime, but we're hanging in there.
Let's see. Looking through the last comments, more Gundy comments in here.
Because Gundy beat Miranda today.
He did.
The mullet.
Yeah.
Is he still mullet, or is he trimmed
still
it down?
No, he's still mullet.
I mean, it's not like as flowing as maybe it used to be, but he's
probably at Eskimo Joe's right now
committed to
enjoying
it.
some cheese fries.
Eskimo Joe's.
Probably
Stillwater staple.
Yeah.
Used to go there all the time.
Let's see if there's a few more comments. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to work up the comments here. Brett Bielema, a lot of people talking about him.
Sure.
And I think it's notable on him that Eichhorst went to him first in 17. Or not 17, but
do you know that?
That's what people have said to me. That he was one of, people around, that was the first guy that they tried to get.
Because Harvey has said, Harvey Perlman, I was reading it the other day. Harvey said they only went to Riley. I'm just telling you what
formally.
He said. Yep. Okay.
So I think there's
take what Harvey Perlman said with a grain of salt.
So you think Mike Riley was the first choice for the 2015 Nebraska?
I didn't know it was a fact that they went to Bielema. I didn't know that. What you're telling me, I didn't know.
What amazed me about that 15 deal, though, was how quickly they fired Bo on
3 days
on Sunday.
Yeah,
right.
They had Riley by Wednesday or Thursday,
and we were in our Husker lunch events.
Yeah,
in Beatrice and Fremont on Thursday, and they had Riley hired.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't know that they went to Bielema for sure.
I think they put an overture out to him.
Okay.
I mean, I even heard speculation that Chris was approached back then.
I don't know that.
But Chris then went to Wisconsin for Gary Anderson. Gary Anderson went to Oregon State for Mike Riley, and Mike Riley came here as the Emperor Barry Alvarez kind of orchestrated a little triangular move there.
Perhaps.
And I mean, that's just my tinfoil.
Yeah.
It was a little more than tinfoil. I mean, I remember the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel writer wrote that as a blog, that he thought that's what happened. Jeff Patrikas. So maybe that's what happened. You're never going to get that from Barry.
Bielema, how about the job Bielema's done?
Oh, it's almost in tune. It's like lower key lands.
Like, look at what Illinois is right now compared to what they were even under Lovie Smith. Like, just the physicality that they play, like their running game.
Right.
Chase Brown is right up there as
he
one
got
of
over
the better
100.
running
He got over
backs
100. Yeah.
in the Big Ten.
Yeah.
And they just have that hard-nosed Big Ten identity, which.
Well, what's the identity? They run the ball well. They play good defense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They played physical in their Lovie Smith, but they were just always missing something.
Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, they were always
that's for sure.
I mean, they were physical. Lovie Smith had them fit, but Brett Bielema.
How physical were they?
Do you remember that
Their
game?
safeties?
Oh yeah, they hit the hell out of Nebraska that day in Champaign. Yeah, that's true. That's true. I'll give you that.
They played that cover 2, and Nebraska was hitting everything over the middle.
Yeah,
and just getting smoked.
And yes,
yeah, they hit that night. That's for sure.
But right. I mean, Lovie Smith, like his family, like didn't even live in Champaign, and like he just had like an apartment there. I mean, it was like a Mike Riley situation here, and you know. Their AD, Josh Whitman. I mean, obviously, he's weathered some storms there, and he's hit big with this hire.
Yeah, he hit big with the big man.
But Rutgers, short week. We go out to New Jersey. First time we've been out there since the epic 2020 game, which Steve and I were there were only 4 Nebraskans that were at that game in 2020 because the parents weren't allowed to go.
It was a hell of a trip.
And
Parker was out there. Parker Gabriel was out there.
Sam McEwen told Robin.
Sam was out there.
It was me, you, Parker, and Sam. And Sam goes, it was like covering a football game in East Germany. And he's about right. I mean,
that was.
So it will be a little different scene, but I'm excited to go back out there. Should be better.
Are you really?
I'm always excited to go on the road.
I went out there once. What year was that? 16? That was a way better trip than I expected.
What trip?
Piscataway.
We were with
I know,
Paul
but what
Riley
year? What year?
It's 16?
2016.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that was
16.
It, right? Yeah, 16. Yeah, I mean, it was a dude's trip, like Sean and I like to call it, like one of those where you're not taking the wife and kids. It's just you bring out your old college buddies and you go out there and you hit the bars and eat food truck sandwiches.
It was 2015.
15.
following the Michigan State win.
You're right. I knew it was right around there. Either way, I had a better time there than I thought I was going to have, because that trip is widely regarded as the worst in the Big Ten. But
I'm not looking forward to it, but I wouldn't say I'm
You'll like where we're staying. We're staying in the heart of New Brunswick. There'll be stuff to walk around to.
Okay.
It will be set up nice.
Thank you, Sean.
So look forward to that.
Do we have a steak dinner planned or something?
We do. Thursday night.
Do we have a steak dinner?
We will take care of you. I promise.
Okay. I always look forward to that.
But thanks again, everybody, for joining us here on Husker Online Postgame Live. We will be back with the Monday night rundown show as well. And we are planning to go live from New Jersey. Now, we're going to kind of work out a few plans and figure out how we're going to do this, because we're not going to have all of our equipment there like we do right now. But we would like to go live, and we're going to work that out. So big week. Make sure you subscribe, like our YouTube channel page here. It's the largest Nebraska football community, HuskerOnline.com. And our YouTube channel's also the largest. So get on here, like it, subscribe. We put out great content. You can get on Husker Online right now, $10 for 1 year. Special coaching shirt special. We're on the On3 Sports Network. Thanks again to our back-end producer, Trey Yannity, for putting this show together. For Steve Sipple, Robin Washett, I'm Sean Callahan.